Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to all of our attendees tuning in from around the world. Today's broadcast of Invisible Women in Sport is an Institute for Sport and Social Justice production. I'm your producer, Garnett Overby. All guests will be muted during this production, but I encourage you to use the chat feature to ask questions or to leave a comment. We will reserve time near the end to answer a few questions. So now, without further ado, I would like to welcome our host, Taylor Middleton.
Hi, everybody. I hope everyone's having a great day. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 6 of Invisible Women in Sport. I'm your host, Taylor Middleton, and today I am joined by Christal Peterson, who is the Character Formation Coordinator at Baylor University. She is also a previous UCF DeVos alum and a track and field athlete. So we have a lot of stuff in common. So I'm very excited for today. How are you doing today, Christal?
I am doing great. Super excited to be here this afternoon. Oh my gosh, this is amazing.
Well, just to get out any jitters that you may have, we're going to go ahead and do rapid fire today. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. You have 30 seconds total to get all the answers out. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So you ready?
All right.
1, 2, 3. Favorite candy?
Ooh, oh my gosh. Snickers.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
The 100 or 200?
1.
Goal of the year?
Ooh, goal of the year. To paint another mural.
A mural? Gonna have to ask about that. How does it feel to be a part of a championship?
Ooh, feels like, I don't know, like my hands is heavy from the ring we got to, I don't know, it feels amazing. Feels great. Just super excited, super excited. Feel like I put in a shot or two up there.
All right, that is it for today. So we'll go ahead and get started. So like I mentioned before to everyone in the audience, Christal is a previous student athlete. So could you tell us a little bit about getting into athletics in high school and that relationship you had with your dad with that?
Course. But before I get started, I definitely want to say thank you so much for having me today. Taylor, shout out to you for being the host doing this. For somebody who doesn't like public speaking, I commend you for rocking out. All feel pretty welcome. And I also thank everybody from the Institute for also having me today. Just wanted to make sure I give you all your flowers for just making this series a great one. But for me, how I got into athletics is an interesting one. So my dad was really big into basketball. I just remember watching him play all my life. My cousins actually played basketball. So I just knew, Christal was going to be the next Lisa Leslie. I was going to be dunking. I was playing basketball. That was the goal for me because that's all I saw, honestly. And so I'm 5'6", maybe 5'5". But basketball definitely was not in my foresight. And so when I got to high school, I just, played on the basketball team, was really trying to pursue that goal because I really just assumed I was going to play. And it wasn't until my friend got me into track. She wanted to try out for the cross country team of all things. And said, hey, I want to do it by myself. Can you do it with me? And so I'm like, sure, don't want to leave my girl hanging. Let's definitely go out there and run. And little did I know, I ended up finding something that I was very much passionate about. And it makes sense now why I was on the basketball team. I was the fastest one on the court. When the rebound would come down, I was the first one on the other end ready to go. My teammates would pass me the ball. And this is probably how I knew I wasn't going to be a basketball star. I would give it back to them. So they're like, shoot it. I'm like, no, you. So I think right then and there, I knew I wasn't supposed to be playing basketball, but she was the one that got me into it. And I guess you could say the rest is history. And I found out my junior and going into my senior year, I guess, that my parents actually did more sports. So my dad was a 3-sport athlete. He did track, football, and basketball, like I said. And he still has all the records at his high school, Robert E. Lee in Baytown, Texas. And so it was cool just to be able to see his pictures on the wall, the newspaper clippings of him that my grandma had. My dad was a beast. And then now my mom also did track. She was a high jumper in St. Lucia. So both my parents are both St. Lucian. They came over here when they were young, but they both ended up doing track and field, and I didn't find out until a year when I guess I was on the map. So it's really interesting how sports played a role in my life.
Now, with all of that, like getting into track a little bit later, when did you kind of find out like, all right, I'm about to start getting recruited? This is about to be like a big time thing?
So I think it really didn't hit me until my freshman year. No, actually it was junior, but freshman year, I think there was something there. I was the only freshman to make it to the States in the indoor. And I remember being on the line with like the Marlena Welshes and just the big time names in my state. And I was just scared. I was like, oh my God, I'm a freshman, but this is really cool. I'm probably gonna be fast, but it's all right. Like at least I'm here. Things that I was like, I think I'm pretty good. And for any track and field heads out there, y'all know AAU, where you're at the track from 5 a.m. until 10 p.m. You just, I'm getting scared. I'm getting hot thinking about it. But I did my sophomore year going into my junior year. And it was then that I think like something clicked. And it was my technique coach, Coach Moore. I just started coming into myself. When I was a sophomore, I ran 11-1, not 11-1, 12-1, which was pretty good, but you know, not like phenomenal. And by the end of my junior year, I was running 11-4, 11-5. Yeah. Out of nowhere. I don't know what, know what kind of juice I was drinking, but I was just out there. So right then and there, everybody just started calling me. And my AAU coach told me that was going to happen. He sat me down and said, like, Christal, your name is going to be out there. And I'm like, no, I'm still, he's like, no, just trust me. Just trust me. He gave me the date too, and I forget, but it was sometime in July, like when that threshold of recruitment happens. He said, on this date, you're going to get a lot of phone calls. And I'm like, oh, that's not going to happen. And sure enough, I was in my house on the couch, probably watching Just Judy with my mom. And next phone ringing off the hook.
Yeah.
So right then he was like, one thing I do want to let you know about it is they're going to give you the bells and whistles. When you finally finalize your 5 visits, just know that they're going to tell you just so many things to get you there. But you got to remember one thing. Is this the school that you're going to want to spend the next 4 to 5 years of your life? Like, you're making a commitment. Could you see yourself really being there, immersed in the culture of that school? And my dad said the same thing too, because again, he didn't go to college. But he also, again, was getting recruited. He just, was being somebody who's international and not really knowing what that looks like. He just taking that next step. But now he's like, hey, I know education is important. And so let's say your leg breaks tomorrow and you can't run. Would you be okay being a regular student and pursuing your education at that institution that you choose? And so that changed the game for me. Because now I'm looking at these schools a little differently now. I'm not looking at them as the championships they have on the wall or what they're doing in their facilities or stuff. I'm like, hey, do you have my major? Hey, what's the study hall look like? Hey, do you have this? Like, I'm asking questions a little bit differently because I'm really thinking about that. What if that happens to me? I don't want to assume that, but you just never know. Right. So I got humbled really early in the recruiting process about the what ifs.
Yeah, we kind of talked about that the other day, like how our parents were pretty similar. That's how my mom was as well. She was like, education, that's why you're coming here. Like, track is secondary. But, coaches, typically they tell you, they're always like, what is it? They're like, education first, track second. That's what they say. And I don't think a lot of athletes actually know what to expect going into recruiting. So can you just talk about going from being recruited by really big programs and then kind of setting in stone on UCF?
Yeah, definitely. And I'll let you all know, just even in high school with just being, I guess, one of the #1 recruits in Virginia and running as fast as I was, I had no desire on going to college. I'll be completely vulnerable and upfront with you all. Where I came from, unless you were playing football or went to like certain schools, you weren't expected to go pretty far. So when people are talking about college and, I'm sitting at the table with our jocks and our football players and they're like schools and, I'm like, what is that? Now I'm going to go to the Thomas Nelson, like down the street. I'm going to go to the community college like we normally do. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah. So actually realizing that, man, I could be the first in my school, like opened the doors for a lot of girls, not just the guys going off the court. Like it was one of those things that it started to dawn on me that track and field could really take me pretty far if I'm serious and buckle down with it. And so when the recruiting process happened, I had my top schools. I'm not gonna lie. I had my LSU's, my Texas A&M's, my Oregon's, my, UCLA's, because, that's the names that you saw when NCAA's, you saw all the celebrating championships. So I want to be on the championship team. It used to just be me. And I did have a team, but again, when we would go to states or even nationals, it was just me. And so I really wanted to have like a family environment. Family is my number one value. And so getting recruited, that's something that I definitely was looking into in addition to the education piece. And so I did get recruited at some of those top schools, which was great because I said, yeah, going back home to Texas, I already know I'm gonna be with my cousin, it's gonna be great. But then the interesting part about being recruited, and most of the student athletes or former ones on this call would know, is you realize like some top programs aren't really what they say they're supposed to be. And I being at one school in particular, I was at practice with them, and it was everybody at practice. And so I remember one of the girls came up to me. She was an 800 runner, real cool. I gelled with her. I said, if I come to this school, me and you are going to be like BFFs. And so she walked away, and I didn't catch her name. So I was like, oh no, shoot, like what's her? She's walking away. So my host came up, and so I'm like, hey, what's her name? My host looks at her, and she said, I've never seen that girl a day in my life. And that right there hit me because they're teammates. What do you mean you don't? Yeah. What her name is. And so again, being humbled early, I'm like, am I gonna be like that? Like she's the top like competitor in the NCAAs, and she's my host. So that means that I'm good. So I'm gonna be in that in crowd. But what if I pull my hamstring, or what if I get in that freshman slump? Like what happens then? And so as much as I love that school, I still try to give it a chance. I'm like, it's whatever. That's whatever. It's just one person. Yeah. Okay, like maybe it was a bad day. They did just run 400. Who knows what you're thinking after a 400? You might be Jesus at the end of the. So it was just, again, something I put in the back of my mind. And as I was going from school to school, I had friends who, were calling me saying, hey, come out here. It's lit. Like we're going to be together, dream team. It wasn't until Coach Carroll, who's now Southern California, she called my mom. All the schools have called me. She was the only one that called my mom. And they had, I guess, a good conversation, because next, my mom comes in the living room, says, hey, do you know a school like, she said like UFC? I was like, what, Mom? She was like, I think it's UCF. I was like, what is that? She was like, Central Florida. Central what? She was like, yeah, Orlando. I'm like, oh, Disney World. And she said, yeah, that's where it's at. And I said, okay, what about it? And she was like, well, I just got off the phone with this coach, and she sounds really cool. She said, hey, come take a visit. And if you like it, like come. If you don't, then it's okay. And at the time, I was deciding between either going to Florida, Auburn, Clemson. I was like trying to decide on my last visit. And I'm like, I'm not going to go out there. What? I don't know that school, never heard of it. What is it? And I ended up going. Don't know why, I just ended up going. I think it's because I really wanted to go to Disney World. And I assumed that since, they give you the bells and the whistles, they were going to take me. That's besides the point. And the moment I stepped on the campus, fell in love. Was amazing. My host was crazy, phenomenal, made me feel at home. The one thing that stuck out to me about this visit was that we went square dancing with one of our cross.
I can't believe that.
Yeah, like to the point that they took me to the room, and I dressed up in the plaid, the shorts, the hat, the boots, all the nine. And we went out there and we had the time of our lives. Like I had so much fun, and it wasn't fake, phony, like just trying to, make an impression in front of Christal. It was really like pure fun. Like if I wasn't there, this is something they would have did on a regular Saturday night. And they also knew who I was. I don't know if that was coach, prepping them on the back end, but the moment I stepped on the track, it was, hey, Christal, how you doing? Hey, we just saw you ran at Norfolk State the other day. Girl, you killed it in that 400. Wait, hey, seriously? So like, it was already like a family environment. We just gelled so good. We played Dance Dance Central in the lobby until, I think it was like 5 a.m. Like it was just so much. still talked about it this past weekend because I actually got to see my teammates for one of our, former teammates' weddings. So it was like cool just to have all those old memories and talk about it. But yeah, that's how I knew I wanted to go there. And when Coach Carroll dropped me off at the airport, I told her, I was like, yeah, so you can go ahead and send me them papers. I'm good. Just go ahead. My mom even said, she was like, I could drop you off today and leave and be okay with you there. And my mom, I live with my mom. She's a single, come from a single parent home. And so it's always been me and her. And she looked at my face and said, yeah, I can leave you out here. And that's how I knew I was supposed to go to UCF.
See, and that's like, I wish that more athletes kind of experience that more authentic and like genuine interaction when they go on recruiting visits. Like mine, I adored Pitt. That was probably the only school that I went to and I was like, all right, I can do this. Cause kind of like you, like in my high school, I was pretty much the only girl on the team until my sophomore year. And then I was the only person going to state up until my junior year. And it was like a small group of us. And for those of you who may not know, I was in a graduating class of like 47 kids. So for me, going from that to Pitt, it was like, oh, dang, like this is about to be big time. And so like on my visit, I was there for homecoming. Wiz Khalifa was there. All this stuff was going on, football games, like all types of stuff. But it was even like afterwards, I was still like, Mom, this is where I want to be at. Like this is where I want to go. And I would have never thought to go there considering she went there and I was not trying to be there. Cause you know how moms are, they're like, I got eyes on you. Just don't think that I don't. And it's like,
why do you think I went to Florida? I had schools in Virginia recruiting me. My mom was like, oh my gosh, road trip. I said,
no.
It's like, I'm just kidding. I love my mom. I love her.
Oh my gosh. So going through that whole experience with recruiting and having such a great time, like going to UCF and then deciding to go there, having gone through all the amazing things that you did as a track athlete, how was it like transitioning from undergrad to grad school at DeVos and kind of stopping track?
Ooh, that's a really good question. And I won't say it's difficult to answer because I feel like my sophomore year, there was a moment where I did know, I don't think this is like track and field is really not for me, but like long-term. Yeah, going long-term. And it was when I got injured. So I had a hole and a tear in my patella tendon. And so I was out for the entire outdoor season with one of my teammates, Ash, is on the call. So having that time to be still, I guess you could say, I started thinking more about my identity as a person. When I was in high school, I was very introverted, barely talked to people, just kind of to myself because I'm an only child, just me, myself, and I. And I went to college, I need to be more outgoing, talk to people more, be just enthusiastic because that was going to get me far, just put myself out there. And so when I realized going to networking events that were put on through our office, that all I could say was, hey, I'm Christal Peterson, the track and field athlete, expecting the other person to ask more questions about who I was and they didn't, that told me I need a little bit more depth to myself because right now I'm just Christal, the track athlete. And so it wasn't until I walked into what is now our Student Athlete Welfare and Development Office at UCF. And that's when I got to meet like Corey Sedbury and Corey Pinkett and Marcus Sedbury, sorry. And right then and there, they told me like, what do you want to do like for the rest of your life? And you get that question a lot, especially from an advisor or even again from your student services person. But I didn't want to like answer it because I had time. I was a sophomore, yeah, I'm injured, but minor setback for a major comeback. I really just didn't want to think about it because it was just a blow to my identity. I didn't want to think about the end of Christal. I just came off a great high school career. I'm trying to have an even better college career. Like that's what's supposed to happen. And I'm really big into community engagement. And at the time we used to do an autism walk. And so during that autism walk, that's how they lured me in. My cousin is autistic, so really big on that. Part of this, and that trickled into, hey, you should be a part of SAC, which trickled into, hey, you should be a part of this leadership thing. And then more opportunities started to rise. And that's even how I got connected with Dr. Lapchick, because we had an all guest speaker and he came in and spoke about his journey and just how dope he is in the world of sports and just the many opportunities he presents for us. Wanted to know more about him. Also, he taught in Virginia. So I was like, wait, how come I don't know about this guy? Like that didn't correlate.
Yeah.
And so even leading into it, I still was thinking I'm going to do health science preclinical because my passion is to help people medically, just like me. I was injured. I saw how incredible my, PT was. I want to do the same thing. But I guess my path medically wasn't what I was supposed to do to help others. It was supposed to be in sports. And my senior year, I was trying to apply for all the health programs. That's what I wanted to do. And I didn't get in because I didn't have the experience due to being a student athlete. Being on SAC, I was SAC president, and me and Ashley, I don't know if you remember, Ash, we created this Swords Awards videos, and it's like the end of the year banquet for all the student athletes. We it over and made it into like a whole theatrics, like videos, promos, all these things, because I don't know, that's what we were passionate about, and that's what you're supposed to do when you're on SAC. And it wasn't until I got connected to our soccer coach that he was like, you should do DeVos. And no, the greats go through DeVos. Marcus, Corey, Jesse, like so many people have gone through DeVos and are doing great things in the industry. Like that's not me. And he kept pushing me like, no, I think it's meant for you. I think you should do it. And even then I kept ditching and dodging him. And he actually had to send one of his student athletes to come find me in the cafe and say, hey, coach needs you to go and talk to Doc. Like go talk. No. So it wasn't until like somebody really just spoken to me like, I think this program is meant for you. And you're going to get a lot of that in life where people are going to come up to you and say, hey, I think you're actually really good at this. I know you're really passionate, you're going down this direction, but you're a natural down here. So I think you should and just kind of explore that path. And I'm glad I did. Really glad I did. Because a lot of the things that I endured as a student athlete was definitely helpful in DeVos. I did look at my cohort as my teammates. I think I slipped up many times, Sable. You can attest to me calling them my teammates. I mean, my cohort or my class, but like, this is my team. That's all I knew, growing up as being on a team. We worked together towards a common goal, which was graduating, but,
So how have you brought that into your current position at Baylor as a character formation coordinator? Can you kind of explain what that entails? Because I've never really heard of a position with that like title.
Hey, I would actually, because the character, the facilitator in me is like, what does character formation mean to you? We ain't gonna go down that rabbit hole, but character formation to me is literally what it says in the name. Just take the person for who they are, raw, unedited, and just transforming them into the best version of themselves, whether they know it or not. Because a lot of times in thinking that you know what you want to do or where you're supposed to go. And it's not until you get connected with really good people or just people who are in your corner that you find out like, maybe I do want to do this, or actually I didn't know I valued that so much, or I've never explored or experienced X, Y, and Z. I want to pursue it. And so that's what we're here for. In character formation, we have 5 pillars. It's leadership development, career development, community engagement, leadership development, and then social responsibility. And so I'm over social responsibility, community engagement, and now I'm over our personal skills. And now we have a mentorship program that we're doing. And now I also teach class. Something to do when I was a student athlete, because that's how I got connected with Corey and Marcus. I love that my first year, they were, I guess, my teachers, and I got to be connected with them outside of my sport. And so that's something that I actually want to do. So, hey, be careful what you ask for, because sometimes it comes back to get you. And so that's what I'm currently doing now. I teach our first years about the many resources that we have here at Baylor, but also help them understand who they are the next 5 years. The STL class that I teach is the start to our Baylor Built program. And when I say Baylor Built, we have 48 hours of just intentional programming through their 4 to 5 years, because as we're preparing champions for life, we want to be Baylor Built. And so I just love everything about what I do in that office, the students that I get to encounter. Again, our men's basketball team won on Monday, but literally yesterday I was texting Jackson Moffitt, one of our basketball players, about his MCAT that he has to take soon. I'm like, congratulations, like, yo, let's go. But about MCAT, how was studying the bubble? You good? Anything? Like, you're straight? Jared is also one of our SAC members. And so today he was just posting a picture in his SAC shirt. It's just so cool and so interesting to see that you get to be a part of that championship and that feeling with them, but you also get to be a part of those little victories that most people don't see on the back end. And so I love what I'm doing. I feel like I'm paying it forward because, again, I work for the people who poured into me, Corey and Marcus. And so I feel like this is God telling me this is my purpose, what I should be doing for my life.
And now, even with that, you kind of spoke the other day just about the culture of Baylor and how it is there working with their men's coach. So how did that influence your decision to come there, and how have you implemented your experiences as a student athlete into that, if you kind of explain that?
Yeah, thanks. I think if you don't get anything out of my story, the power of connections is something that you should definitely walk away with, because I met Marcus when I was 17 years old at the round table in our building, just talking about his experience at Nebraska and what it was like for him to be a track and field athlete who got injured, had to reevaluate his life and decided to, do more. Right then, I was like, wow, like that's amazing. And then I go and meet Corey Pinkett, who was a graduate assistant at the time, but I thought she was a director because of how she, held herself. And you have those two powerhouses who are, pouring into you, telling you that you're a light and letting you know that you're just so much more than just the athlete that you came in to be. And so, after a while in athletics, transitions happen. And so they went on and, went to move on to bigger and better things and impacted more people. But it's that connection piece, talking to them and just saying, hey, how's everything going? Hey, I saw that you're at the Philadelphia Eagles. Hey, I see you're at K-State. Hey, women leaders. Hey, Arkansas. I just wanted to check in and say, hey, that's all. No else, don't need anything but hi. And even when I, went to DeVos, they're DeVos alums. Hey, I'm in DeVos. Like, they let the kid in. I don't know why, but it's cool. But, just them and letting them know, and even asking them and consulting them for advice. Do you think I should do the program? Do you think I'm, biting off to more than I can chew? Or what do you think? And even as I was looking for a job post-graduation, they were the ones that, were talking to, especially Corey. Hey, the job search is kind of hard, man, getting a lot of no's and I don't understand. Hey, I'm feeling kind of weary. What's going, and them talking, it's going to happen. Don't worry. Stick through the process. It's going to happen. Don't worry. You're good. You're good. And so I went on to be an NCAA intern at Wheaton College under the Minority Ethnics grant. And so there, I was supposed to be there for 2 years, but instead I was there for 10 months. And again, Corey, talking to her, she's like, hey, you want to come to Texas? I'm like, of course I would like to come back home. And so then I'm at Baylor. And so I think it was really me just connecting with them and letting them know that I'm actively trying to get better at my craft. I went to, which is a Division III school with zero resources. They never had a student development office or even knew what it was before I got there. And I was able to come and implement so many different programs and Leadership Academy. And so right then and there, that told me, do you really want to do this work? Because it's a thankless job. It really is. And it's also a revenue sucking one. Like we want to say we would like to make money for the institution, but we're making it in, I guess, the internships the students get, the graduation rates, like that's our revenue for the department. But it's like, do we spend money here? And so, for me, I was like, I want to be able to do this job and not have to worry about money or having to worry about the many awards, the pats on the backs you get. Like, no, I'm here, people. I'm in the people building business. And so that's what, I'm here for. So I think my experience as a student athlete and then coming to Baylor also helped with just some of our programming too, because you're always going to think in the lens of what attracts you. Yes, they're different. And yes, they are into different things. In school, we were probably doing Vine. Now there's like TikTok. I don't got a TikTok, but like, our athletes are TikToking. And so you got to meet your students where they are. And it's good to have a good relationship with them, because then you can talk to them. Hey, what did you think about our program? What could we change? Sometimes we'll have a student athlete be a part of our brainstorm. And it's the coolest thing ever, because they feel like they're like a stakeholder. Like, oh, let me tell you, I really enjoy our rooms. And I really like how the work, like, it's really cool to bring that process, because they feel like they are also being a part of the, I guess, curriculum building that we're doing. So I just think the connections, experiences that I had as a student athlete trickled over to why I'm at Baylor.
Okay. So then with all that being said, for the audience, I'm about to ask my last question. So please, everyone, get your questions ready in the chat if you have anything for Christal. She has been great so far. She has a lot of information for everyone. So please take advantage of this to ask her anything that you want to pick her brain with. So to kind of close out, what would be some advice you would give for young women kind of coming into the industry, especially women of color, trying to kind of break those barriers and come into sports?
Gosh, you asked me this question and I still feel like it's such a hard question to answer. And I'm even trying to think about, think back to when I was in DeVos and that summer I was telling you about where I was getting a lot of no's. I would say the piece of advice I would give to women and young professionals, but especially women, is trust the process, embrace the no's, and never question your worth. Experience. Taylor, I think me and you talked about it. I was the fundraising chair for DeVos.
Yeah.
I don't like math. Don't even want to touch money because it gets when you do that. But for some reason, I knew going into what I wanted to do that me having some type of fundraising experience, even if it wasn't grad school, would help me in the long run. Just didn't know. I just knew it was going to help me. It was good for me to know. And now I'm starting to get new responsibilities where now I have to use that fundraising hat that I thought I had got to throw away. Now I'm dusting it off and saying, all right, let's get after it. And so I would just say, just know the experiences that you're getting yourself into or have, they are worth it. And yes, you might be getting no's that may feel like definites. They're just because when you get that yes, it's going to all make sense. It is. It's going to make sense why all those no's happen, and this one was the one that wanted to give a chance to you. So I would just say enjoy the process, embrace the no's, but know that that has nothing to do with your worth.
Well, thank you so much, Christal, for today. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Garnett so he can run the Q&A for you and just have any questions. So if anybody has any more, again, please just go ahead and drop them in the chat.
Christal, you are awesome. I have to just say that. You are awesome. And with your energy and how outgoing you are, I would have never pegged you to be an introvert. So that's something that I learned about you today. So we have our first question from our very own Matt Edelson. And Matt is asking, having gone through the recruiting process and having to make such a big decision at such a young age, how has that experience helped you make other big decisions as you go through your career?
Oh, can you repeat that one more time? I literally looked down at the chat.
Okay.
I was like, wait,
so
what?
Having gone through the recruiting process and having to make such a big decision at such a young age, how has that experience helped you make other big decisions as you go through your career?
Ooh, that's a great question. Thank you, Matt. Like we kind of talked about yesterday, as a 17-year-old having to sign your letter of intent to commit to a school for the next 4 to 5 years, it's a big decision. You don't think about it at the moment because it's, it's just something that's happening at the moment. But like that's transformational because that school that you choose is going to be like your home away from home. And so I always think back to the many decisions I had to make when deciding on a school and having to decide why I wanted to go there, the pros and cons list and the longevity of it, all that, talking to my stakeholders, so my parents, my AU coach. And I think I do the same now. When I have to make big decisions at work, I obviously consult my supervisor, but then I also just think back to the pros and cons list. What is the benefit from this? And how is it going to help the university or the institution propel forward? Is it going to hurt us? Is it going to help us? I just got to go through all those. And even if I can't talk to my supervisor, it's on me. And I know that I'm equipped and well-versed to make those decisions, even if it may be a big one. And so I think student athletes, we just have a different set of skills when it comes to like being under pressure, when emotions are high and stakes are against the wall. You're just easy to think clearer in those moments.
All right, thank you for that. This question comes from Lisa Archibald, And Lisa is saying, can you talk about how you have done things outside of your craft to grow personally and professionally?
Ooh, so I would definitely have to give a big shout out to, again, the grant that I was on at Wheaton College, because one thing that was a part of it was $3,000 worth of professional development. I can use that wherever I wanted to go. And in conjunction to me going to Wheaton, because there was no resource and knowing that I wanted to do student athlete development, I also wanted to learn, because I can't be doing something and not actually learning from the best. And so I got into women leaders. My best friend, Brianna, is on the call, and she was a member. She was actually the membership intern at Women Leaders. She was the first to graduate in our class, y'all. She was a beast. Y'all knew that. Y'all saw her call. But she was the membership intern, and she was telling me about this organization of women and how they're breaking the ceiling. You need to be a part of it, basically, is what she said. And so I joined that, and I got connected with Lisa. I got connected with Danny, Patty Phillips, a lot of great women, and just started going to their convention. So went to their national convention, got accepted into their symposium, did their IAA. I just wanted to learn so much about how to be better at my craft. And I even did NCAA programs. So Law, Leadership Academy, EFW, which is Effective Facilitating Workshop. I was hungry. I think after a while they were calling me the workshop guru or the workshop like just hopper, because I was everywhere just wanting to grow. And so I'm connected to so many different things. I'm also a part of N4A. I lead a call for community engagement, because again, I just love helping the community. And then I also lead a call, used to be with Lisa. Lisa, I miss you. Just doing legislation and governance. Mind you, I don't work in compliance. Why am I doing that? Because I think it's important for me to know. It's important for me to be on the ins and out of what's happening in compliance, especially with NIL happening. I want to make sure that I'm in the forefront of helping our student athletes understand the importance of what that's going to do for the eligibility if they decide to go down that route. So for me, I just like to put my hands in different things to educate myself on how to be better at what I do at Baylor.
You are into a lot of things.
Too much, right? Now that I said it out loud, I was like, I might need to, eat my plate. I'm not that hungry. I just be wanting to snack here and there, but I go head first for everything. I don't know why. I need to relax.
I can tell. This question comes from our very own Olivia Wiggins, and she is asking, what is something to do to set yourself apart from others when applying or interviewing for a job?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would definitely say being in grad school. So this definitely applies to grad students or anybody who has a student tag to their name. Reach out to those institutions or organizations that you want to be a part of long term, and just do informationals. Really just say that you want to pick their brain and understand the day-to-day that they got going on at their organization. The reason why I say this is because if I see a student's name in my inbox, or even when I was a student, they're more inclined to say, yes, how can I help you? Because everybody wants to help a student. I want to assume that everybody wants to help anyone, but it's just something about students, because again, you want to be able to say, I was able to be there, help them grow, that, people are just going to be more inclined to want to reach out and actually, inform you about what's going on. So I would say what sets you apart is if you're able to build those connections outside of just, hey, I'm trying to apply for this job. But if it just so happens that it's a job that you have zero connections with, it's okay for you to start thinking about the experiences that you have now and how you can maybe not put it on your resume, but make it shine on your cover letter. So that when you have that interview, they can talk about, hey, we see on your resume, well, did you know I also did X, Y, and Z? The one thing I always talk about is if I have to get in front of them, I'm going to win them every time. You don't know me on paper. A paper just tells you just a little aspect of what Christal brings to the table. But did you know I do photography? Do you know I also run social media? Do you also know that I do monthly management? Like, there's so many different facets to me that's not on that resume. Let me get in front of you. And that's where you really shine, because they get to see your personality. If y'all had my bio, no, actually you sent my bio out before we had this call. You can't feel my personality. You can't feel my smile to that email. But now that we're on the call, it's easy for you to be more welcomed in, because I'm talking to you and it's a live person. So I would just say, be yourself. And again, just build connections, intentional ones. Don't be transactional.
Great advice, Crystal. Great advice. So this question comes from your sister girl, Brianna Vaughn, and she says, what's some advice for introverted people that struggle with putting themselves out there?
Thanks, Bree.
Like Bree is an introvert.
I was like, my other best friend, Ashley, introvert. So I might have her actually pin her. I'm just kidding. Before she logs off. I'm just kidding. That's so hard because you know how they talk about leading the horse to water, but you can't make the horse drink if they don't like. I think that's what it is with introverted people. You have to just be in the mindset to wanna, I don't know how to say, like, put yourself out there to do it. Cause it's scary. It really is. It's vulnerability. It's how do I act? Like, what do I say? I don't feel like I have a lot of words to give out there. So do I just smile really big? Like, what does that look like? And so my advice for anybody who is introverted is just your words matter. I think I tell Ashley this all the time because she's very limited in what she says. But when she opens her mouth, everybody stops because it's worth what she's saying. And so I would just say, just know your words matter. And when you put yourself out there and go outside your comfort zone, there's so many great opportunities that happen. I think I posted about this the other day on my Instagram. On the other side of fear is opportunities. And I think that's what being introverted is. Like, you're just being reserved and holding back and being closed. How are you going to get all those blessings if you're closed off? It's just going to fall right over you. So I would just say, with being introverted, just know it's hard, but you just got to have a real conversation with yourself and say, like, we just gonna put ourselves, what's the worst that can happen? Really, what's the worst that can happen?
I like that quote. I put it in the chat. On the other side of fear is opportunities. I like that. Thank you for putting that out there. Last question from Ahmad Boyd. Ahmad is asking, how can we on this call support you both professionally and personally?
Oh, I mean, for the folks who are on the call, that's really support in itself. And even for the folks who are gonna watch this or even text me saying, like, I'm so sorry I couldn't make the call, like, that's support in itself. I think we're all in a marathon just trying to be better people each and every day. And honestly, human kindness and grace is all that can get us far. So for me, I know I'm not the best in just keeping up with folks, but I know for a fact that if anybody reaches out to me, it's nothing but love and, support. And that's what I just think it is. It's hard to try to separate it professionally and personally because I'm just one person. And I feel like that all bleeds together. What you get professionally is what you get personally. But just support, continue just to show support for each other, for me. If you happen to see my face somewhere, just double tap, love, come on. I do like to talk a little bit, not a lot, but it's hard. I feel like I get supported a lot and I'm just so appreciative. And I feel like sometimes I don't even deserve it. So it's hard to ask for things that you don't feel like you deserve, but just grateful for the people who I've been in constant communication with, encountered throughout my career, because I'm honestly a product of them, each and every person.
Thank you so much, Crystal. And I think most student athletes who have been well equipped into their life skills programs or any student athlete development feels the same way. I talk about PIT life skills all the time. So I am a firm believer in all of that. So just want to say thank you so much for today and everything that you had to say to us. And I'm sure the audience is happy to hear everything you had to say, being that some of them are your previous teammates and classmates. So or people that you work with. So this was like a very great talk. Again, thank you so much for being here today. And we're gonna go ahead and close out.
Thank you so much. Taylor, you have a great rest of your day.
All right, everybody. Tune in April 22nd at 2:00 for episode 7. I can't believe we're already here. I will be speaking with Alicia English, the Assistant Athletic Director of Revenue Enhancement. Also, please follow us on all social media platforms to stay up to date and informed about future programs at Institute SSJ. If you ever miss an episode, we've got you covered on YouTube and any other episodes posted up to date as well. We thank you for all of your support of Invisible Women in Sport. We are a nonprofit organization with other programs that impact various social justice issues. Please use the QR code to support us with any financial gift that you can give as we continue to change lives through the power of sport. Thank you. To the next slide. All right. So again, thank you to our guest, Christal Peterson today. We really appreciated having you. Our producer, Garnett L. Overby III, our senior advising consultant, Matt Edelson, our graduate assistants, Larissa Campello and Olivia Wiggins, and our blog writer, Kennedy Collins. Again, special thank you to everyone who supports Invisible Women in Sport, and we plan to keep this ball rolling. If you want to listen again, please follow us on our social media platforms, as I mentioned before, at Institute SSJ. If you miss anything, we're on YouTube, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. We gotta do the next one. So again, we will be hosting on April 22nd at 2 with Alicia English. Viewers, we still need your feedback to make Invisible Women in Sport the best it can be. Following today's episode, you will receive a short survey. Please complete and submit it to us. And again, we also still are having a lot of inquiries about connections to internships. So if any of our supporters or members have internships available, please send your information to our producer, Garnett Overby at goverby@ucf.edu. And we can send out any information that you guys have so they can start reaching out to you all and to us. So again, stay tuned for April 22nd at 2 p.m. with Alicia English, and make sure you register. I'm your host for Invisible Women in Sports Zoomcast. See us now. Bye, everybody.